he can wait. He knows it's too late as he's walking on by. He's gonna fly away to WrestleMania, I heard you say. What is going on, everyone? How are you doing? I hope you're doing good, because it is good to feel good. And as you can probably tell from that lovely little rendition of Don't Look Back in Anger, it is WrestleMania this weekend, and of course it is WrestleMania 40, so it's crazy to think that's been going all this time. I think we're going to have an absolutely cracking show this weekend, and I know I'm absolutely buzzing for it, and especially this year because I am going to be at WrestleMania in person. It's going to be the first time in 5 years that I've done so bring on WrestleMania 40. And as is per the tradition on this channel every year, I'm going to do my predictions for WrestleMania. So I should just quickly clarify, it is April the 1st that I'm recording this today, and as of recording there are 12 confirmed matches, so hypothetically speaking, in April Fool's fashion, there could be some additional matches that do get added onto the show. So Ollie, in the edit, if there have been any additional matches that have been added since recording this video, please can you just make sure that these get inserted, and doing a little few snippets for that? Thank you very much. And as you can probably tell by the sound of my voice, I'm feeling a bit hoarse, which is ironically how I will be sounding after WrestleMania and not going into WrestleMania. I've had a sore throat these last few days, but I'm coming on the better end of it now. But yeah, without further ado, I'm going to take a swig of water and let's run down our predictions for WrestleMania. Starting off these predictions, we're going to go with LA Knight, versus AJ Styles. And it's crazy to think how one thing that's been lost on this feud is that there's been no acknowledgement of, like, you know, or like proper acknowledgement of their time in TNA. Obviously AJ Styles is very much Mr. TNA, spent the better part of 11 years as part of the promotion. And then of course we have LA Knight when he was Eli Drake. You know, he had, you know, a world championship run in the promotion, as well as winning quite a few championships whilst he was there. And now here he is in WWE as LA Knight. He's had quite a road to get here, and obviously this feud revolves around, you know, back in November last year, AJ Styles was originally going to challenge Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel for the Universal Championship. That then didn't come to fruition due to an injury, but then LA Knight then stepped up, and then when AJ Styles returned, there's obviously been a bit of back and forth between Styles and Knight. And of course at the Royal Rumble, both men were trying to win the Universal Championship, including Randy Orton, but, you know, were unsuccessful thanks to Roman having the bloodline helping him again, because of course he did. But then of course at Elimination Chamber, LA Knight qualified for the Chamber match, but Styles didn't. But you know what Styles did? He went out of his way, bless him, to fly all the way around the world to Australia to cost Knight the match. And I love that, you know, AJ Styles did that at the risk of him potentially flying over, you know, the edge of the earth. And, you know, and don't forget, AJ Styles is allegedly a flat earth skeptic, if we all remember that episode of Talking Smack. Then of course there's been a bit of bad blood between the two of them these last few weeks. Obviously they made their match official. LA Knight, you know, did the home invasion on Styles, very much similar to Triple H and Randy Orton from 25. And then on a recent episode of SmackDown, LA Knight disguised himself as a security guard to, you know, beat up AJ Styles. And you know what? Commitment to the role. He did it perfectly, and yeah, I think he is going to have a really good showing in this match. I think both of them are going to have a really good showing, but I think, you know what, LA Knight needs to continue his momentum. And do you know what, this year, they missed the opportunity to do it last year, but put a blooming championship on him. I want to see it. So with that being said, with my little rant, I think I have LA Knight to win. Yeah! Next up, we have Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee versus Dominic Mysterio and Santos Escobar. Ooh, I love a little bit of Latino goodness. I do think there is a missed opportunity to have this be full-on Latino World Order versus Legado del Fantasma. Hey ho, we're getting this match as a nice little compromise. Obviously, Rey and Dominic are continuing their story from last year, of course. You know, Dominic just wanting to beat up his deadbeat dad and, you know, prove he's the better man. On the LWO side, in this last year, there was a one point during the summer where Santos was going to challenge Austin Theory for the US Championship. He got beaten up before the match, so Rey Mysterio took his place, who then subsequently won the US Championship. Then at Crown Jewel, Mysterio lost the championship to Logan Paul, who was inadvertently cost by Santos Escobar thanks to some brass knuckles. Then of course Santos leaves the group, reforms Legado del Fantasma with Berto, Angel and Electro Lopez, and the match is very much set. And I honestly thought we were going to have Rey Mysterio and Carlito versus Dominik and Santos, but Dragon Lee's come in, and do you know what? Dragon Lee is absolutely incredible. Honestly, I know he's fairly new to WWE. I know he only came to WWE in the last year and was part of NXT, but you know what? Dragon Lee is incredible. I think he's going to have a really great showing, and I know he's often being touted as the next Rey Mysterio, but I think we're going to have a little bit of shenanigans afoot. I feel like there's someone in LWO who's going to cost Rey and Lee, and I feel like that could be Carlito. The way I perceived it is Carlito looked a bit pissed when it was like he could have been chosen, but instead Dragon Lee was being chosen. I think nonetheless that Dominik and Santos will win this match thanks to the shenanigans with the LWO. Speaking of the US Championship, we have Logan Paul versus Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton for the United States Championship, and Logan Paul's had a very good year, hasn't he? You know, this time last year he wrestled Seth Rollins in a really good match at WrestleMania, and that match also had KSI being involved disguised as a Prime bottle. Then, as time's gone on, he's had some pretty decent showings. He was in the Money in the Bank ladder match. He had that mini feud with Ricochet that led to a great SummerSlam match. Then at Crown Jewel, he beat Rey Mysterio to become US Champion. Then, of course, he defended the belt against Kevin Owens at the Royal Rumble. Won by disqualification because he was going to hit him with brass knuckles, but then, of course, Kevin Owens snatched them off him, you know, knocked out Logan, but the referee saw it, and that obviously meant that Logan would retain. Then in the Elimination Chamber match, you know, Logan was on his way to, you know, use those brass knuckles again, only to be caught by an RKO from Orton. Then, of course, Logan then finds himself back in the match to then cost Orton the World Championship match at WrestleMania. And here we are. I think we're going to have a really fun match between these three. And you know what? Considering he was involved on SmackDown recently, where KSI and Logan revealed that, you know, Prime is going to be like the ring mat sponsor for WrestleMania and future premium live events, I would love to see KSI get some involvement in this match. You know, considering he took an RKO a few weeks ago, let him take a stunner. I'm sure he's going to sell it like a champ. But now that I'm thinking about this match, I think Logan is going to retain. And my reason for this is, obviously, SummerSlam is in Cleveland, Ohio. He's native Cleveland, Ohio later this year. And I feel like it might make sense for him to go in as a champion. That's just my thinking. So with that being said, I have Logan Paul to retain the US Championship. Next we have Gunther versus Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship. And again, Gunther has had a very good year this last year. Last year at WrestleMania, he had that match with Drew McIntyre and Sheamus. Probably one of the best matches I've ever seen at WrestleMania. And then of course having, you know, consistently great matches for the Intercontinental Championship. And even beat Chad Gable last year in a little mini-series where, you know, he guaranteed himself to become the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion, beating the Honky Tonk Man's record. And in turn, he's also recently broken the record as the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion for both combined reigns and combined days. So good on Gunther. I remember at the start of this year being quite skeptical about who could potentially face Gunther at WrestleMania. I know I had eyes on a few people. I did initially have Chad Gable penciled in, and I did think he was going to win the gauntlet match, but obviously that didn't come to fruition. But here we have Sami Zayn, who in himself is a really good underdog, and you know, you just need to go watch his stuff from NXT to prove that. I think, you know what, again, Sami Zayn's had a really good year. You know, like this time last year, he main evented with Kevin Owens to beat the Usos. And even though they're no longer a tag team, they're obviously still on good terms, but I feel like, you know, yeah, let's have Sami Zayn get a victory. I know that means, yes, it will mean the end of Gunther as Intercontinental Champion, but I think either Gunther is going to be beaten for the championship, or he's going to relinquish the championship willingly and go on to bigger and better things, because I feel like he's going to factor into the World Championship picture later this year. That's just my theory, but we'll see how that goes. So in true WWE fashion, there was an additional match announced after I recorded yesterday. This match is Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits versus Karrion Kross and the Authors of Pain in a Philadelphia street fight. And I'll be honest, I was intrigued at this feud to begin with, especially with the reintroduction of the AOP and Paul Ellering alongside Karrion Kross, but then I feel like my interest in this has kind of gone down a little bit, but I'm sure on the night itself it's going to deliver and it's going to be all sorts of chaos, which is fitting for AOP and Karrion Kross. But I feel like, to put this to bed, I feel like Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits will win this match. Next up, we have a 6-way tag team ladder match for the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championship. We have the Judgment Day defending against the New Day, Awesome Truth, DIY, A-Town Down Under, and the New Catch Republic. There's a lot of great teams in there, and there's a lot of great depth in this match as well. And it's crazy to think as well, 3/4 of the match participants were, when they came to WWE, they were originally part of either NXT or NXT UK, so it's really great to see them all, having, these big moments at WrestleMania. And I'm sure ladder matches at WrestleMania are my cup of tea, so I think this match is going to be incredible. But I am going to address the elephant in the room, and that is, they need to split the bloody belts, for crying out loud. I think even though technically they have been unified for 2 years now, they have still technically at the same time been independent of each other. So it could have been the point where one team wins one set of tag belts and another team wins the other set of tag belts. And funnily enough, that is what I theorize is going to happen in this match. So I have got one prediction, i.e. who I think is definitively going to win this match, and that is the Awesome Truth, based off the whole last few months since R-Truth's return. Obviously he's trying to get cozy with the Judgment Day, trying to become an unofficial member, selling unofficial merch, and even trying to oust JD McDonough from the group. I feel like that's going to play into the finish, but I feel like how I theorize it is, if the Awesome Truth are going to win, they, grab one set of tag belts, or in particular R-Truth grabs one set of tag belts, it's like, yeah, we've won, and then another team grabs the other set of tag belts. I think this is going to be a fun match, and I still think Awesome Truth will win, but my theory is that I think they're going to split the belts. And, again, we've been asking it for the longest time, but this is how they're going to do it, so fingers crossed to that. Next match we have is Bianca Belair, Naomi, and Jade Cargill versus Asuka, Kairi Sane, and Dakota Kai. And it's a bit ironic to think a year ago, 50% of the match participants here weren't even with WWE, so in the cases of Jade Cargill, Naomi, and Kairi Sane, they were respectively in AEW, TNA, and New Japan / Stardom, so yeah, to think they're all now in WWE all together is incredible. I'm really excited to see what Jade Cargill does. I think she has been absolutely incredible. I mean, I know she's only about to have her second match in WWE, but you just need to go back to her time in AEW and just see how incredibly dominant she was. She was, undefeated for the longest time, and she was the longest reigning TBS champion. I feel like, if any of that good momentum she had in AEW is obviously carrying over to WWE, I think she's going to have a really great showing. And I feel like at the same time, I feel like the Damage Control contingent are going to start, I want to say, I think there's going to see some cracks in the match and, some miscommunications. And I feel like that could eventually, say down the line, lead to the breakup of Damage Control as it is. But I feel like, we're going to have a great showing for these women, and I feel like we're going to have a really great showcase for Jade Cargill, along with Naomi and Bianca Belair. They really know how to hold their own at WrestleMania, so bring on this match. I think it's going to be absolutely incredible. But yeah, for my prediction, I have Bianca Belair, Naomi, and Jade Cargill. Speaking of Damage Control potentially breaking up, we have Iyo Sky versus Bayley for the WWE Women's Championship. And what an interesting 2 years we've had, especially since Bayley returned. She returned at SummerSlam after a year-long off due to an injury. With her, she brought some backup in the form of a returning Dakota Kai, who had returned to WWE after being released earlier that year, and a returning Iyo Sky, who had just been called up from NXT. So good stuff all around. Obviously, the latter two going on to win the Women's Tag Team Championship multiple times. Then last year, Dakota Kai sadly got injured, so then the focus was on Iyo Sky, who would then go on to win both the Money in the Bank ladder match as well as the WWE Women's Championship. And honestly, around this time, I genuinely thought that it was going to be Bayley turning on Iyo and not the other way around as it would turn out to be. But, you know what, for what it was, we still got some good, pairings between the two, and even bringing in another Japanese contingent into Damage Control, we had Asuka in the mix. We then had a returning Kairi Sane, as aforementioned, and yeah, you know, Damage Control was on top form. In the Royal Rumble match, obviously, Asuka and Kairi Sane were in the match, but obviously they were unsuccessful. But Bayley herself was the winner. She won from the number 3 spot. And you know what, she was initially going to be like, oh, I'm going to challenge Rhea Ripley instead. And you know, everyone in Damage Control has, you know, a championship. But instead, obviously, she knew that her Japanese contingent in Damage Control were basically out to get her. And she even spoke in Japanese to, like, and you know, insulted them to the surprise of the Japanese contingent of Damage Control. So then the stage was set for Bayley to challenge Iyo Sky. So Kai's returned recently from injury, where obviously it looked like Bayley and Kai were going to team together, but then at the last minute, Kai was like, nope, I'm signing with Damage Control. Damage Control, for, like, I don't think it works that way. But anywho, I think we're going to have a really great match for these two. And I feel like, you know, Bayley entering in as a babyface, and considering at WrestleMania she hasn't done so for 5 years, I'm not saying let's make it hug a Bayley, but I feel like we're going to have, you know, a really great showing for Bayley, and, you know, getting a nice good old redemption for, you know, being the one to create Damage Control, and she will probably be the one to end Damage Control. But ultimately, predictions wise, I'm going to go for Bayley. Next up, we have Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch for the Women's World Championship. And it's crazy to think, on this day a year ago when I'm recording, Rhea Ripley won the SmackDown Women's Championship from Charlotte Flair, and then in turn would become the Women's World Championship. You know, she's had a really good year as well on top, because, you know, Mummy's always on top. You know, she's having dominant showings, you know, and retaining the Women's Championship along the way. She recently main evented Elimination Chamber in a night in Australia, beating Nia Jax. And here we are, finding ourselves Becky Lynch, you know, as the number 1 contender. She won the Women's Elimination Chamber match, and she earned this right to face Rhea Ripley. I think, you know what, these two are going to have an incredible match. And, you know, a lot of people are saying that, you know, Becky Lynch has kind of calmed down a little bit. I know, interestingly enough, I'm wearing my Becky Lynch t-shirt, the WrestleMania shirt, and it's 5 years since she won in the main event for the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships. But I feel like, you know, she's going to have a decent showing. I think both women are going to have a decent showing for that matter. But I feel like there's going to be something that's costing Becky. I know obviously they've kind of like thrown like their personal lives into this mix as well for this feud. It is hit or miss when it comes to that. But you know what, but I tell you what, Becky is always very passionate with her promos, and she knows she's not taking any shit from Rhea. I feel like that is going to play into consideration at WrestleMania itself. But I ultimately feel like Rhea Ripley is going to retain, and I feel like there is still a little bit left for Rhea Ripley in terms of her being Women's Champion, Women's World Champion for that matter. So I'd quite like to see her retain it and see how long she goes for after WrestleMania potentially. Next up, we have Jey Uso versus Jimmy Uso, and continuing the tradition of every 15 WrestleMania since WrestleMania 10, we have a brother versus brother match. So of course that continues the tradition of Bret Hart versus Owen Hart from WrestleMania 10, Matt Hardy versus Jeff Hardy from WrestleMania 25, and now we have Jimmy and Jey Uso here at WrestleMania 40. And no, I'm not counting Undertaker versus Kane because they are kayfabe brothers. But, you know, make of it what you will, but they are not real life brothers. Sorry to break the illusion. This feud is interesting because there's obviously been a lot of like story beats. Obviously this connects itself to the bloodline as well. Obviously last year, a year ago to the day when I'm recording, the Usos lost the tag team championship to both Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in the main event of night 1. Then, obviously, as time went on, Roman Reigns started to distance himself from the Usos to the point where at Night of Champions last year, Jimmy would turn on Roman Reigns, and then subsequently on SmackDown, Jey Uso would do the same thing, setting up the Bloodline Civil War at Money in the Bank, which also included Solo Sikoa. And then, of course, at SummerSlam last year, we had Roman versus Jey in a Tribal Combat Rules match for the Undisputed Championship, which Jey nearly had it won, but no! It's Jimmy Uso. He's turning on his brother. How could he do that? And it's crazy to think, like, you know, the 180 of, like, you know, Jimmy ousting himself from the Bloodline to then rejoining and, you know, getting cozy again. Very weird dynamic, but it's just storytelling at the end of the day. And then, of course, as time's gone on, you know, they've obviously, you know, encountered each other time and time again. Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes won the tag team championship last year. Then Jimmy Uso then cost them the championship back to the Judgment Day. Jey and Jimmy were numbers 1 and 2 respectively in the Royal Rumble match. And then on an episode of Raw a few months ago, Jimmy cost Jey the Intercontinental Championship against Gunther, and ringing the bell. But here we are. This could be interesting, and you know what? A brother versus brother dynamic is always a good shout at WrestleMania. I do feel like, given like the bad blood between these two, there should be some like no DQ stipulation or like street fight stipulation or something. But it is what it is. I think we're gonna have a great match. But surprisingly, I know you'd be thinking, yes, to go with Jey to win this. But I'm actually gonna go with Jimmy Uso to win this, surprisingly, because I feel like that, if it's on night 1, it's going to play into the dynamic of night 1 and night 2's main events, which we'll come on to in just a second. But yeah, surprisingly, I'm going to go for Jimmy. I keep getting the two confused. But surprisingly, yeah, I'm going to go for Jimmy Uso to win this match. And probably get proven wrong when Jey beats him, but we'll have to wait and see. Next up, we have our main event on night 1, which is Roman Reigns and The Rock versus Cody Rhodes and Seth freaking Rollins. This match is going to be absolutely incredible, I think, and it's got obviously implications for night 2's main event. So if Roman and Rock win, then it is bloodline rules, anything goes for that main event match on night 2. But if Cody and Seth win, then the bloodline are banned from ringside on night 2. So it could go one of two ways basically, but it is crazy to think of the butterfly effect that has led to us getting this match, and we all have Jack Perry to thank for this. So thank you very much, Jack. You're doing the Lord's work, so thank you very much. But anyway, fast forwarding a bit through that butterfly effect, which also included CM Punk returning to WWE. At the Royal Rumble, of course, Cody Rhodes won the Royal Rumble again. He set his sights on Roman Reigns, and even on the following episode of SmackDown was like making it very clear that he wanted to challenge Roman Reigns, but then he said, not at WrestleMania. Then of course he brought out, someone who did want to challenge him, and said he was, had some special counseling with him and he wants to do it. Out comes The Rock, who at the same time as returning to WWE made his intentions that he wanted to become head of the table, obviously playing towards Roman Reigns, and in turn becoming a director of the board for TKO, who are WWE's parent company. So obviously the site was set for WrestleMania Night 2 being main evented by Roman Reigns and The Rock potentially. Then of course there was a massive backlash with the We Want Cody movement, which then WWE then pivoted to then having Cody Rhodes then definitively coming out to challenge Roman Reigns, that match being official, but obviously The Rock being absolutely pissed off that he's been cost this opportunity, so he wants to get one over on Cody Rhodes. But obviously Seth Rollins is in the mix as well, because obviously what happened at the press conference in Las Vegas. But here we are, and also can I just say, having heel Rock back is such a great shout. And you know what? Heel Rock is the best version of The Rock. I know a few months ago I had cold feet about The Rock being back in the WWE and him, being in the spotlight for WrestleMania, but do you know what? I've been proven wrong, and it is great to have him back, and just even to the point as well, 2003 heel Hollywood Rock theme back as well. I love that theme so much. But anyway, to the match itself, I feel like Rock and Roman are going to win, because my theory is the odds are already stacked and up against Cody Rhodes, but they're going to be more than stacked against Cody if this is how we're going to roll on night 2. So I feel like if it is bloodline rules for night 2, then let's just pile everything on top of Cody, and I'll come into the prediction for that match in just a moment. But ultimately, for night 1's main event, I have Roman Reigns and The Rock. Then taking place on night 2, we have Seth freaking Rollins versus Drew McIntyre for the World Heavyweight Championship. And do you know what? The World Heavyweight Championship obviously has been reintroduced. Obviously I was a bit kind of like, cold feet about it being reintroduced, because I felt like it was kind of a consolation prize to the Undisputed Championship. But you know what? Rollins has been proving his own. He's been defending it left, right and centre, even defending it in NXT on one occasion against Bron Breakker. So good on the lad. But here we are. Obviously Seth has obviously faced Drew McIntyre quite a few times for the championship, and you're probably thinking this is just going to be the same match. But Drew McIntyre in the last few months has had this massive shift in character. He has now just become a pure dickhead heel, which are my favourite kind of heels. He's absolutely savage on the mic, you know, he's just, you know, trolling everyone on like social media. He's absolutely incredible, man. And do you know what? I would just argue this and say, you know, 4 years ago, Drew McIntyre, yes, he won the WWE Championship in the main event of WrestleMania 36, but that took place in front of no one. Because of COVID, that was in front of no one. So he was cost that opportunity. But I feel like for this match, you know, Drew McIntyre getting his big victory in front of a big crowd for a World Championship. Yes, please. Thank you. Goodbye. See you later. Drew McIntyre to win. And finally, we come to our main event for night 2 of Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes, once again for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. To think a year ago, like, I remember just being in absolute shock when Cody Rhodes lost to Roman in the main event. Yes, bloodline shenanigans played into that. But do you know what? Cody Rhodes very much went back to square one. He had that feud with Brock Lesnar this last year, where Brock Lesnar put him over clean at SummerSlam, which is crazy. He had that on and off feud with the Bloodline that also involved him and Jey Uso winning the Tag Team Championship. His team won in War Games against the Judgment Day at Survivor Series. He won the Royal Rumble once again, you know, winning back-to-back Royal Rumbles, and that's incredible because that's not been done in 26 years. Then of course, obviously, there was that whole, won't he challenge Roman Reigns, and now he's definitively challenging Roman Reigns. However, my little slight complaint with this is that I feel like, whilst this has been building to this match, Cody versus Roman, I feel like Roman Reigns has been overshadowed in a sense because of The Rock being involved, and you know, there's been more of a focus between The Rock and Cody for a potential match down the line as opposed to this. But it's interesting, we'll see what we get from this match. I think, personally, this is going to be it for Roman Reigns. This is where I think the championship reign has to end. Like, you know, it's gone on so long, and I feel like, you know what, there's not really much else that we can really go on. Because my big thinking is, if Cody Rhodes loses this match, where does he go from here? I know we obviously had what happened last year, and I'm thinking, where does he go from there? But obviously he's found himself back in this position. But here we are now, and I think this is going to be it for Cody to finally win and do what he couldn't do last year. I've seen a lot of comparisons saying last year's main event was like the ending to Avengers Infinity War, but I feel like this year could be the ending to Avengers Endgame, where the heroes come out on top this time round. And I'm sure if it is Bloodline rules and there's going to be all sorts of shenanigans afoot, I think Cody Rhodes is going to have like his version of the Avengers, if we think about it. I know we've seen Seth Rollins and Jey Uso as allies throughout this, but it's interesting to see who else could be an ally for Cody Rhodes in this match. But nonetheless, he is my prediction to win definitively, once and for all, ending the reign of Roman Reigns as undisputed WWE Universal Champion. Cody Rhodes, let's do this. And yeah, those are my predictions. So I think we're going to have a really great showing. I think this could be an all-time great WrestleMania, and I feel like the atmosphere is going to be electric in Philadelphia. And, you know, again, it's going to be really nice to be at WrestleMania once again, because I've not been in 5 years, but I'm sure it's going to be an absolute cracker. But anywho, those are my predictions. I'm going to really enjoy WrestleMania, and what I'll do as well is I'll obviously vlog my trip. I'll see how I get on with that, because I'm not quite sure in terms of vlogging how I will go about with the trip. I might upload some bits here and there, or may just upload everything after I come back, but we'll see. But anyway guys, thank you very much for watching my predictions. I look forward to hearing your thoughts and opinions and your predictions as well, potentially in the comments, but I will leave you here and leave you with some advice. That is always to enjoy yourself, stay safe, and make the most of every opportunity that comes your way. Thank you for watching, and peace.